You got a shot.
I did get a shot.
The Rugby World Cup on OTB Sports Radio.
With Vodafone, official sponsors of the Irish rugby team. Team of us. Everyone in.
Sexton from outside the 10-metre line. It's spinning. It looks good. Le drop de Jonathan Sexton.
Rugby World Cup on Off the Ball. Updates, analysis and opinion across all OTB channels from start to finish. This is OTB Sports Radio.
OTB Sports Radio.
All right, you're very welcome along to another OTB Rugby World Cup show here. There are, just over 20 minutes to go until kick-off in Fukuoka between Ireland and Samoa, as Ireland look to guarantee themselves a place in the quarterfinals, regardless of what happens tomorrow, whether or not that Japan and Scotland game goes ahead. The latest on the Typhoon Hagibis, Johne Murphy, who's alongside me as well, doesn't look particularly good this morning. The wind and rain has been pretty startling from what we could see. I know as well there was an earthquake recorded in Tokyo to go alongside it, and I know when you came in as well we were talking about the pictures and videos that were doing the rounds this morning of the Japan and Scotland teams going out to try and complete that captain's run this morning, wading probably thigh-high in floods, trying to get out onto the pitch.
Yeah, it looked like they were about to get into an ice bath rather than going out to do their team run. Like literally kind of waist-high water. So yeah, it's there's going to be all sorts of complications if that game doesn't go ahead. So
it's looking more and more unlikely now that it is going to go ahead, based on what we've seen and heard this morning.
Yeah, it's kind of, look, I said during the look, it's kind of mind-boggling really that it's gotten to this stage, and the critical pooled stage games are not going to be. They're not. Some of them aren't going to be played. Some of them might not be. It's just a bit of a mess for the showcase tournament every 4 years. It doesn't look great, to be honest.
And I think particularly with this tournament in Japan, like, I don't know, from my point of view, this felt like this was the tournament to leave a legacy on. First time going outside the established, Six Nations or Rugby Championship countries for a World Cup, and we've had cancellations of games. We've had enormous confusion over laws and the red cards and what is or is not a red card or a yellow card. And on top of it as well, you have a situation with the Ireland and Samoa game this morning on a pitch that looks like a bog. Yeah. It's just been one thing after another.
It was kind of the opportunity to showcase rugby to the, I suppose, it can be viewed as by some people as kind of us and them, and to the greater sporting public worldwide, and the audience that they were going to get in Japan alone to really grow the game in an area that has massive potential. And so far they haven't really, I think atmospheres have been fantastic. They've ticked certain boxes. I think showcasing the host nation beating a Tier 1 nation. Unfortunately, we were that Tier 1 nation. That's incredible, and it probably got a huge amount of viewers and fans because of that. But then all that goodwill and everything has just been taken away by the inconsistency of the referee decisions around the tackle height, and their decisions there, and even some of the suspensions. It doesn't seem to be a straight line for everyone, and then this stuff going on about games just not being played. The lads are essentially playing on what seems to be a bit of a carpet today. That it's been completely relayed. Everyone's seen the video of the lads putting the ball underneath what was described yesterday as tiles, grass tiles. So yeah, it's just the last 4 or 5 days in particular have been a bit of a mess.
And like, for example, if Japan were to go through by default, if this game is called off tomorrow, and we'll say if Ireland do their stuff today, get their win or a bonus point win, and eliminate Scotland when they haven't had the chance to play for it, does it put a bit of an asterisk, a bit of a...
I think so. I think
italics on the achievements Japan would have made in this tournament, and a lot of people it probably takes a lot of the gloss off what they did against Ireland.
I think, to be honest, it puts an asterisk on the whole tournament, based on New Zealand, England, who are two of the favourites going into the tournament. They have 2 weeks, 10 days, 12 days lead-in time into a quarter-final. The only one who was scheduled to have that probably was South Africa. So people accepted that, but the fact that two of the leading contenders haven't had a game and now have 2 weeks in, and that's a massive advantage over anyone else that reaches the quarterfinals. The likelihood is, if Japan do continue the form that they're in, you would probably back them to qualify anyway, but it would be fantastic for them to do it in their own right. And it's probably unfair on Scotland to a certain extent that they're not going to have, it's massively unfair that they're not going to have their opportunity to get into the quarterfinals if it's called off.
So there is probably just 17, 18 minutes to go until kick-off in Fukuoka. We will look ahead to that match now in just a moment or so, but first we're going to play a little clip of, we mentioned the pitch in Fukuoka and the current state of it, and here's Alan Quinlan, who was on OTB AM yesterday, describing what he had seen when he was at the ground.
Just been chatting to Owen, who's in Fukuoka, obviously ahead of the game. He's been down at the stadium. I don't know if you've seen any of these shots or if you've been down there, but the pitch...
I was there.
Yeah, go on, tell us about the pitch.
It's horrendous. It's amazing how... I couldn't believe it. I walked out on the pitch before the Irish team arrived, and you could practically lift it up with your hands, the sod. Like, it's all kind of squares just laid down the last couple of weeks. They had issues with the pitch for France and USA. There was a storm and it was very wet and the pitch cut up badly. But there was no contingency plan. Have you heard that word in the last few days? Contingency plan.
Bloody hell.
Where do you go with that, Al, from a rugby point of view in terms of tactics? Listen, obviously Ireland keep the ball in hand and they go through the middle. But in terms of, is there anything that will be specifically laid out for Ireland because of the pitch and tactics-wise?
Well, it's just Ireland need to get a bonus point, Stephen, and if there's any sort of rain or conditions, it's going to make it much more difficult because, yourself, players want a solid underfoot pitch to play on, to run, to move. And look, I think Ireland will win the game, but they've got to get a bonus point to be sure of getting through. So I think there's it's not ideal, but look, they've just got to get on with it now. There's no point in even focusing on this, but the pitch it's bad. I was amazed, and I wouldn't be surprised if it cuts up badly tomorrow.
There have to be huge concerns, Johnny, not even just on how it impacts performance, but on how it impacts. There could be an ankle twisted, there could be an ankle snapped. First scrum of the day, what is going to happen when a pitch is that unstable? Yeah,
I think, if we were speaking there, if there's a scrum set on where those tiles were lifted up yesterday for the team run, how can you no one's going to be able to get their grip. There is a safety issue attached to that now, you would hope, and they're saying that it has passed pitch inspections, it has passed what needs to be, the Irish guys in the press conference yesterday were very clear. Well, it's firm, it's a bit patchy, but it's been passed. That was their go-to line. They didn't really want to get dragged into kind of talking about it. It was pretty much flat. It's been passed for Test rugby, and that was where they're at. So and I think Quinny's right there. It is going to affect the potential to get bonus points if it does cut up. If there are issues at scrum time, based on holding your feet, referees can get involved, give a penalty a wrong way in a 22 where you're attacking, lose your feet because of that, and the referee deems it's a penalty. There are opportunities that can go missing because of that, but hopefully that's not the case, but we're not going to know until they're actually on the pitch.
Yeah, and the relief, I suppose, is that 3 or 4 days ago we were wondering, was Ireland and Samoa going to go ahead at all, because it looked like that Typhoon was tracking towards Fukuoka rather than up towards Tokyo and Yokohama. So Ireland at least know that they go out there, if they get their bonus point win this afternoon, it doesn't really matter what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow would really just decide, is it New Zealand or is it South Africa? I mean, after the Japan performance and the worry of a few days ago over that Typhoon, at least they can actually go out now and just concentrate on their own game, go out and do their stuff and sleep easy tonight.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. They have to be very clear and cutthroat about what they need to do. They need to win with a bonus point today. That takes out, they're not reliant on anyone else. They can control that, and that's what they have to go out and they have to do. So at least there's clarity in that, and there's clarity in their thought process now, even though there was a bit of, they were worried for a couple of days whether it was going to go ahead. Once it was given the green light, it was just very much, right, this is our job, let's go out, let's get the job done, despite pitch, despite everything else that's gone on. This is what we have to do, and that's it, very simple.
And how do you evaluate the chances then of that actually happening today, of going out, getting the bonus point? Samoa haven't been particularly good really in their 3 matches to date. A real lack of organisation at times in the team, but they obviously are a side that can be very, very dangerous in their own right if you give them the chance to do it. Yeah,
I think individually they have some fantastic players, and they have real quality in that. They're obviously a very physical side. That's what they're kind of based on. I would expect that it's going to be a very physical game for the first 30-40 minutes, first half, and be quite tight. But you've seen France, you've seen other teams that are only 6 points up, or 7 points up, 12-5, 12-6 with 9-10 minutes to go and end up getting a bonus point. How they get the bonus point doesn't matter. So I think they just need to make sure that they don't blink. If it is close, I think they'll have the fitness and the fitness levels to just drag it through, with 20-15 minutes to go. The bookies have a kind of 27 point spread. I think that's probably a bit large. I think they'll win, and I think they'll get a bonus point, but I would expect it to be kind of 16-18 points, but only in the last 10-15 minutes. Okay, and in terms of selection, it's clear to see that Joe Schmidt isn't taking any chances whatsoever on this. Granted, there's no Rob Kearney, but he hasn't really trained much in the last week. He picked up a knock against Russia, but the team is up there on the screen, and it is largely first choice. You've got Robbie Henshaw back in for his first appearance as well, which is a massive relief. It's obviously not ideal that we haven't seen him for the first 3 games whatsoever, but how do you think he can come back in today? He obviously hasn't played too much over the last few weeks. Hamstring injury has been holding him back. Yeah, is that the kind of thing? Can you come back up to speed pretty quickly after an injury like that? Well, I think they gave him an extra week because of that. That was what the talk was, that he could have, if it was needed, he could have potentially gone out, but he might not have been 100%. He would have been high 90s. That's probably not what you want with a hamstring, because there's always that little doubt if you do go, a quick burst, where I think that extra week will give his confidence and his mind that clearness, that that clarity. Okay, I'm good. That confidence that I'm fine here. I can give it a go. I think it was vitally important that he got out on the pitch. Otherwise, he probably shouldn't have been there. I think outside, Pete obviously was a bit slow during the week. They commented at a couple of press conference that he was slow into training and stuff, so he's not playing today. But I think that balance of the back row was good, and I think Tyg Byrne playing 6 allows him to kind of concentrate on the breakdown and try and get over the ball, which he's so effective at, and leave the kind of dark arts and the nitty gritty of the second row work, where when you're where he's in the second row, he kind of has to try and do both, and he doesn't have as many as those standout moments as he can, where I think he can kind of excel at 6, given in that he has a very important defensive role, and then also at the breakdown he can really go after it. So with 6 and 7 line up, I think that gives us a really good opportunity to really go after their breakdown. In terms of game plan, are you kind of expecting it to be roughly along the lines of what we have seen over the last few games? Joe Schmidt's never been a man to just kind of tear up the playbook. Yeah, I think to be honest, an unstructured game will suit Samoa. Yeah. I think it's going to be very structured from Ireland, like it or not. I think that's what these two, what tier 2 nations really struggle with, is the structure and the pressure. Obviously it didn't work out against Japan, but I think that's what they really struggle with, and it's just building that pressure and knowing that we're in this, we keep going, and then they'll be first to blink. I think Ireland's kicking game will be massively important, getting up, competing for the balls, trying to win that aerial battle that they are generally so good at, and that means that Samoa might just try and run the ball out at a wrong time rather than kick it back, and that crack then just gives Ireland an opportunity to get those scores that they need.
One of the I suppose the few high points from the game against Russia was when Johnny Sexton was on the pitch. He controlled things quite well. He did have a very good 40 minutes when he was out there last week against Russia. Important to get him back out again today, and I think Joe Schmidt kind of hinted he'd be looking to try get him 60 minutes this afternoon. And of course we want to see Joey Carberry getting onto the pitch as well, getting some game time underneath him if there's a quarter final coming up next week. Yeah, massively. I think, Johnny, I'm not, on his day, he's World Rugby Player of the Year last year. On his day, it's debatable, are there any other 10s as good as him at controlling a game? He seems to have very much, when he's been on the pitch, been, really, he's been massively important when Ireland play well. It's generally because Johnny is there, specifically in the last kind of block of games, and you would have hoped that if he did play against against Japan, we might have got over the line there. But I think his control and his leadership ability really adds something that just no other 10 can give us at the moment. That is just a clip there. Is that of the Ireland training before the match? Is it of the practicing a couple of scrums? You can already see the pitch tearing up there. Half his boot is submerged under the ground, and you see it on good pitches so often as well. During the Six Nations, when it might just be a bit of a soft day, that a couple of hard scrums and the ground is tearing up behind you. You have to be worried about an injury going into that. And you see, the problem is that if there's mistakes by anyone there, knock-ons, issue, so I think the tournament organisers will be hoping that there's no knock-ons at all today, so there'll be very few scrums, and I think people probably, when they do have an opportunity, looking at that, look at that, it's another picture, looking at that, when you if you have an option of a scrum or line out with a penalty, I'd say they're probably going to be but even mauling's going to take, going to colour up as well. It doesn't look fantastic. Would you be expecting Ireland, if they do have an attacking platform on a scrum, to pretty much be trying to get it in and out as quick as possible, rather than hanging around there and because there's too much variance there in the sense, if you lose your feet, a referee, you lose your footing, referee, it's down to referee's interpretation and what picture you've given him, regardless of the underfooting. You would imagine that the referee will be quite forgiving in that area at the start, but if it does turn into a shambles, he's going to have to use his whistle and penalise people. All right, final couple of minutes before we wrap up. 6 minutes to go until kick-off in Fukuoka. Final call, you kind of hinted earlier on, you do think Ireland are going to get the bonus point. Doesn't sound like you think it's going to be that comfortable an afternoon, though? No, but when you see those pitch pictures, I'm second guessing myself. Again, it's just not great. A footing like that can slow anyone down. In horse racing terms, last week you saw what happened in Abel last week on bad ground over in France, and that can scupper in any sport. So I'm going to stick to what I think. I think hopefully they will get that bonus point, but I think the bookie spread is a small bit too much. I think maybe 15 to 18 points, but it's going to be a long 80 minutes. I expect that fourth try maybe in the last, between 75 to 80 minutes, but I do think they'll get it all going well. Okay, teams coming out onto the pitch in Fukuoka. That's where we're going to wrap it up from here on the Rugby World Cup show. We will come back at half-time, though, just for a quick 10-minute chat, just to, look back on what the latest has been over the first 40 minutes. Who knows, Ireland could be in trouble by that stage. They might even have the bonus point wrapped up, but we'll wait and see. Enjoy the first half, and we'll speak to you soon.